Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 21st episode of Coin News Extra weekly virtual blockchain and cryptocurrency panel discussion. So, today we'll be talking about the role of smart contracts in modern transactions. I know most of us have been hearing about smart contracts and the way it is changing the way we do businesses these days. So, we have experts and personalities in this sector. We have Ashish A. He is a fintech for farmer and founder Whrrl. Ashish, you're welcome to Coin News Extra.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ashish Anand. I'm co-founder of Whrrl. So Whrrl is a blockchain startup, blockchain fintech startup working in the arena of commodity finance. So which is part of funding to farmers and for using blockchain. We are actually financing the farmers' commodities which are stored in a warehouse. We are currently working in India and we have a network of 1,250 warehouses on the platform. We have more than 5 banks on the platform right now who are doing live lending. In last 2 months, we have started the lending process. We are one of the largest, I would say that across the globe, we are one of the largest token issuers on real assets. So we have already tokenized more than $400 million of commodities so far on our platform. And we started lending a couple of months back to the farmers. We have issued more than $1 million of loans through smart contracts, which is the topic today.
Okay, thank
So
you very much.
I will,
You're
yeah,
welcome. And, we have another person, another expert in this sector. He is Maurice Getunga. Maurice Getunga is ICO, IU, and STO white paper writer. Maurice, you're welcome to Coin News Extra.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me once again. I remember you had some earlier conversations earlier this year, so I'm delighted and to engage with you guys further on this topic. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you all. So I'm the moderator, Lee, and this program is proudly sponsored by MTech and Nimedis Ecosystem and Miami University Blockchain. So let's move straight to the topic for today, the role of smart contracts in business and modern transactions. So before we move straight and start talking about how it's going to help transactions across different nations, border, all the rest of them. So we will want to understand what a smart contract is. Maurice, let me start with
Yes.
you. What is a smart contract?
Okay, so a smart contract is actually, in essence, it's actually a digital contract. Only that this time it is having those terms and the conditions of your agreement encoded on a software. So what happens is that the terms, the normal, what you are used to as a contract in the normal real life is now those terms between the buyer and the seller. You agree on everything, the conditions that you're going to undertake, and then you have those conditions, those terms written in form of a code and then implemented or held within a blockchain. So in essence, it's actually a digital contract. But the good thing about, or the good thing with smart contracts is that they self-execute themselves. So once you've reached, or once those terms that are within the contract are met, we'll have the contract, or the system, or the software executing the terms. Let's say, for example, uh, you had agreed to buy a car and you've met all the conditions. So the transfer of ownership of that car goes through, or is undertaken through the computer software, and then the ownership then moves to the from the seller to the buyer. Yeah. So in essence, it's actually a digital contract, but runs on a blockchain. Yeah. And
Okay,
it's automatically run. Yeah.
interesting. Nice definition and explanation of smart contract. Sis, what's your take? What can you add to that definition?
so I fully agree to what Morris is saying that executable contracts. The issue, what we see that so old contracts, the legal contracts were created for old economy. So you will see that, but when we talk about a decentralized world where entities are connected to each other, then it becomes difficult to enforce that contract, those contracts directly. For example, a buyer sitting in Kenya and a seller sitting in India, if the dispute arises, how do we solve that? So what the people do that they choose a jurisdiction, they choose something like Singapore will be a jurisdiction, the court will have a power over that. Now both the parties, if there is a dispute, they have to go to Singapore. There is a cost of hiring lawyers, etc. What a smart contract does that in such scenarios, because whatever is the condition for executing the transaction is already coded, based upon fulfillment of that those conditions, automatically the transactions are executed. So there is no question of a dispute being created over here. And if there is a dispute, there are solution mechanisms which can be built in the smart contract itself. Like for example, in case there is a inferior quality good has been supplied, so how much the payment will be how much payment will be deducted, how the quality will be determined, what will be the incentive mechanism for that. So all those can be created in coded in the smart contract, and that's what we call that a code is the law. So the code becomes the law and the transactions get settled automatically. That's the best benefit of a smart contracts we see. And this is sort of mechanism which we need for a connected world, not the sort of mechanism where the paper transaction decide that you go to an arbitrator sitting 3,000 miles away and then he will decide that what is to be done.
Interesting. You've been able to. I wanted to ask how does smart contract work, and you people have been able to explain that during the definition of a smart contract. Unless you have other things to add on how it works, without that, we'll be moving. Having understood what a smart contract is and how it functions. We want to know. People will be asking, smart contract, is it applicable to all sectors? Can you be able to tell us the sectors that smart contracts are applicable? Let me start with Ashish.
So see, smart contracts are executable mechanisms. They are applicable everywhere. So smart contracts are nothing but sort of algorithms. So algorithms are applicable everywhere. Today, whatever you do, even a TikTok video which you watch is the next one is the based upon algorithms. So however, earlier algorithms was created within the organization. Now, when we talk about a decentralized connected world where organizations, more than one organization are connected together, anywhere there is a transaction, it can be smart contract coded, no doubt about that, in any vertical, all the verticals of the world. However, the thing we have to be careful about that how do we bring the conditions in the smart contract, and there the role of oracles come into picture. If we are able to create proper oracles where the data sanctity is perfectly aligned with the objectives of the smart contracts, we can apply it in any industry, be it insurance, be it finance, be it, as we talked, Morris talked about transfer of ownership, land records, government. No sector is there where we cannot apply a smart contract. However, what we will require is good blockchain configuration, which incentivizes the parties to be fair to each other, and secondly, proper oracle configurations into that.
Okay, interesting. Maurice, what's your take on that?
So, okay, yeah, I do agree with whatever Ashish has said. So, because we're living in a highly interconnected world, there is that need to engage in, for example, in more trade, and this brings in by bringing the idea of smart contracts, it makes it possible to exchange anything of value across industry. So, for example, if you look at, I can give a use case of, for example, real estate. So in normal cases, you find that, for example, if let's say person A is looking to rent a house, and then there is also person B who is also the owner of the house. So these two people, they can be connected online because of thanks to internet, but there is that concern of moving that particular value, the person A has amount of money, and then the person B has a certain property that he or she is willing to lease out or rent out or even to sell. So in this case, by use of smart contracts, you can have the both parties agree on terms, and for example, the part some of the terms that can be included, for example, in this smart contract or the digital contract would be, for example, let's say person A uh, person A remits let's say $500 to the blockchain, and then we have the other person being sent the address where they are. So once those terms are met within as per their conditions, the smart contract will execute the transaction, and each party goes its own way. And as Ashish has mentioned, so for example, there are areas where you'll need third parties in the form of an oracle, and in this case, an oracle will be actually like an external source of data to verify whether the conditions of that property, or even that object being exchanged as being of value via the internet or via the blockchain network, it has met all those conditions. And one of the things, for example, someone might ask is, then when you introduce a third party in this P2P or peer-to-peer sort of relationship, then you bring the ideal of centralizing, which is something that we don't want to encourage within the blockchain ecosystem. So you can also have the oracles themselves also replicating the ideal of having a decentralized model. So for example, you can have several of these oracles verifying that whatever common truth that these two parties are seeking is actually a matter of fact. So once those oracles give that information out there, that information is fed into the smart contract, then we can have it executing whatever transaction that is actually being undertaken.
Okay, Maurice, I have to cut you short there. Sorry. What we are looking at now, you've been able to explain it, and Ashish also explained some of the things surrounding smart contract. And what I'm coming up with is there have been some research and arguments surrounding smart contract, more especially that is going to displace the middleman, what they do and everything, and it's going to create dislodge people from their occupations and job. What can you say about that? Ashish, what can you say about smart contract displacing the middleman?
So see, disintermediation, we all know, is the promise of blockchain. The essential idea from where the Bitcoin arose, that you replace the central bank directly, right? So essentially, the entire idea of blockchain is that connect entities in such a fashion that an intermediary, which is a rent-seeking intermediary, is removed from the ecosystem. And that's where the smart contracts come. For example, I will give you exactly what we are doing, and that is where we are using smart contracts. So when we are lending today to the farmers against their commodity dropped in a warehouse. So earlier there used to be an intermediary who used to issue a certificate that, okay, this particular person has brought the commodity in a warehouse. The commodity is of 1000 kg. The weight is the quality is grade B, and weight is 1000 kg grade B, and that used to come to a bank. Now, when we have connected the warehouse to the blockchain directly, there is no such intermediary who is sitting there, whose job is to issue this certificate, or whose job is to make sure when the bank gives a loan to enter in the register that this loan has been given. So all these transactions are taken care of by the smart contracts. And that's the beauty of it, that we are removing a blockchain, we are removing a transaction intermediary from in between and reducing the transaction cost for people. So that is where the smart contracts will certainly eliminate some of the intermediaries for sure. That's the job of it. However, it also gives rise to some other intermediary, and that intermediary can be a information supplier intermediary. As Morris right now pointed out, that someone is needed who needs to say that whether the rent agreement, whether the person has lived in the house for 30 days or not for the purpose of paying or not. So some intermediaries will come to support the transaction, the execution of a smart contract. But larger intermediaries who were rent-seeking intermediaries, they will certainly be eliminated. About jobs, I don't believe that any technology has removed jobs from the ecosystems. Old jobs get removed, no doubt about that, but no, the technology always creates new jobs, and that will be net gain. It's a positive sum game. We are not talking about a zero sum game that removes some of the people outside of the intermediary system. They will get deployed somewhere else, no doubt about that.
Thank you very much. Maurice, you heard Ashish. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Okay, I completely agree with whatever she has mentioned. So uh, with every technological disruption, we expect to have a positive disruption and a negative one. So this is whereby we are going to have those people who are going to be locked out of for example, the supply chain or the ecosystem, or as we implement as we have businesses implement smart contracts. There has been talk within for the longest time possible now that we'll have, for example, lawyers being edged out of, for example, of their own professions because they're quote unquote their careers will be rendered redundant by these smart contract technologies. It's a yes or no situation or response, because smart contracts are actually there as an aid to whatever problems that are there within an industry. So, for example, if you look at a lawyer will be needed to bring in the soft skill part of him or herself within what he or she does. So you'll see, like, for example, they will need to understand the smart contract technology itself, and then see how they can try and fit within the disruption. So when you look at an industry like, for example, banking, we are going to see guys who are brokers in essence, or are going actually to be edged out by smart contract technology. Brokers who act as intermediaries, and these are people who become an hindrance to efficiency of our process. So those people who are within an ecosystem and they are a bottleneck or do not kind of facilitate an efficient process, will be automatically kind of edged out of their careers. But the good thing that every technology comes with its own advantages and disadvantages. So it's something, and it's going to be interesting to watch as time goes by.
Okay, interesting. We've been able to talk about smart contract, how it's going to help the business sector and transactions, the way we do things in this discussion, and that's very interesting. So, in every advantages, there should be a disadvantage. So, let me start with you, Maurice. What are some of the challenges associated with smart contracts?
So one of the fundamental challenge that's connected to smart contracts is that actually you find that because this is something, it's actually, in essence, it's a code, it's a line of code that you give, like, you input data and this data is supposed to be executed after you've met those conditions that are set. So whatever data that goes into this line of code is actually very limited. That is actually why like with my co-speaker, we were mentioning, Ashish, we were mentioning, like, that we will need to bring in all, when you're implementing a smart contract, you need to have, for example, an external third party in the name of an oracle. So whatever, it's actually very limited in terms of the data and the information that can feed into the lines of code that to implement so that you can have the transaction being executed. Another thing would be its disadvantage is actually, like we've mentioned, people are going to be rendered jobless, and it's something that we cannot avoid if you're going to have efficient systems being rendered, and then that makes sense for a business. It saves money, it saves time, and also it makes businesses run efficiently. So yeah, that's it for me. Maybe Ashish can add.
Ashish, talking about some challenges that have been associated with smart contract. There should be, actually, you heard Maurice. mention some of them. What's your take?
So I fully agree with what Morris said. It is we are Oracle dependent. That is one for sure. The second part, which we see in smart contracts and where the limitation is, I will be talking about the business world. So business runs on trust and business runs on credit. The way the smart contracts have been designed today, they require some sort of a escrow mechanism. So in typically what we see in a smart contract, that the payment, if it is a buyer has to make a payment to the seller, the payment will be deposited in a particular escrow account before the transaction is completed. Uh, so that once the transaction is completed, money gets transferred to the seller. Similar situation we see in rental example as well, that the rental amount has to be deposited in a particular bank account. But if we look at the bank worldwide, the worldwide businesses run on credit. Uh, there will be 2 months, 3 months credit. There will not be largely most of the trade happens on credit. Either it will be funded by the banks or it will be funded by the credit period given. So we have yet to find a solution to that. That how do we ensure that the we did not don't disrupt it? It is impossible to create a cash to cash economy. Economic growth has happened and that has bloom has happened because of the credit growth in the society. How the businesses have trusted each other. So what we will need to do that we will need to bring those conditions into the smart contracts. Right now, the smart contracts are too elementary to handle those sort of complexities. So those are the challenges we are facing in the deployment of smart contracts at a very large scale across the borders. But I am sure, hopeful that certainly people are working on creating a letter of credit on a blockchain. People have been able to create a decentralized finance ecosystem altogether. So certainly we will be able to override those challenges over a period of time. But if smart contracts and blockchain have to grow, we have to get solution to find solution to how to make that economy credit economy instead of a cash to cash economy.
Okay, yeah. So I can add one more disadvantage of smart contract. Is it okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, so another one would be like, like what a smart contract is actually being implemented or being held on a blockchain network. So and we know blockchain networks as the way they are built, especially the open and the public blockchain networks. They don't have an opportunity to have those transactions being reversed. So whatever that is actually encoded on smart contracts renders those transactions irreversible. So, for example, and that calls for quite some significance, giving attention to detail in terms of the data that you input in a smart contract. So, because once the transaction is executed, you can never go back. So that might be one of the disadvantages that people using smart contracts are actually experiencing too.
Okay, interesting. This is Coin News Extra weekly blockchain and cryptocurrency and discussion. Actually, this is the 21st episode. So we are talking about the role of smart contracts in modern transactions. So we have gentlemen that are helping us to talk about this who are experts in this sector. We have Ashish A, and we have Morris Ketunga. For our audience, we are about to round up. If you have questions for our speakers, you can drop them a question and answer sessions, so we can look into them briefly before we conclude. Okay, let's move. What we are going to be talking about, Ashish, we've been seeing how things are going. Smart contract and displacing the middleman's job, and also how making them to find a way to fit in. How do you see the future of smart contracts?
Okay. So I would say the future of a smart contract is linked to the future of blockchain. And future of blockchain is certainly very bright. Without, the entire the boom in DeFi we are seeing right now, the move on corporates moving to blockchain, corporates moving to open blockchain like Ethereum. So that is certainly taking place, and we certainly had a 2-year bear cycle in which there was a lot of investment which did not come at that point of time. Now again, with the markets moving upward, and what we saw in the Gartner's, we were in the valley of doom for the time being. We will be moving ahead from here. So Gartner expects that around 2020 to 2025, the growth rate of blockchain will be more than 60% CAGR. And that's where the blockchains, and as blockchains cannot work without a smart contract in a business setting. So certainly future is very, very bright for smart contracts, no doubt about that. We will see implication across the globe in all the industries for sure, very soon.
Interesting. What is how do you see the future of smart
Yeah.
contract?
That's true, because actually the future of smart contracts is very promising, as more entities, more businesses look into implementing blockchain technology into their systems and processes. So smart contracts come along, and then maybe another thing would be actually some sort of convergence between other disruptive technologies with the smart contract. So, for example, we are going to see more use of smart contract technology being used together with, for example, Internet of Things, and this is actually now going to bring into the idea of that sourcing of external data and actually verifying of information that is required within a smart contract. Another thing would be we are going to see some developments within the area of regulation and legislation, because, for example, if you look at, if I can talk from an African perspective, governments are actually not that quite progressive in terms of embracing digital revolution technologies. For example, if you go into a court system, you might be surprised to hear that it actually you cannot actually prosecute a case with digital documents, and that's something that is very interesting. I don't know why governments are lagging in that area. So and even in developed countries, for example, with the issue of data protection and all like things. So we are going to see some legislation, regulation developing within that area, because if you look at, for example, the smart contract application within an industry like healthcare, where we see smart contracts being like giving patients that authority to give authority to have the data used by medical practitioners. So there must be a kind of a framework to guide on how this data is going to be handled and how it's going to be used, and it's going to be interesting to see how smart contracts will actually revolutionize how we operate and how we run our normal day-to-day life. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lastly, before we draw the curtain, what was your last remark? Let me start with you, Ashish. What's your last remark before we close?
So, in my concluding remarks, I would say that we have in last 5 years since Ethereum introduced smart contracts, we have certainly been able to do quite a lot of job in decentralized finance. But in centralized world, and certainly the journey is not going to be, people are not going to move from centralized to decentralized all of a sudden. So that is going to a long journey. So we have to create smart contracts in such a fashion that takes care of the business realities of today. And if we are able to do that, then certainly blockchain as well as smart contracts adoption will be really very, very high in not a distant future, but in near future itself. Thanks a lot once again for inviting me here.
It's a pleasure. What's your closing remark, Maurice?
Yeah. So okay. Thanks for having me once again, Lee, on your platform. It's a good opportunity to try and engage with people and learn from real world cases. For example, I've learned on things that Ashish is doing in Mumbai. So it's actually good. It's a good job that you guys are doing over there in Nigeria. Continue pushing whatever you are doing. The future of blockchain is quite bright, because we've seen it implemented across various industries. Smart contracts the same. So I would actually encourage you guys to continue spreading this awareness. This kind of initiative is quite good, because we need to see more more blockchain application, more smart contract use cases within the continent. There are so many issues, there are so many challenges that can be sorted out by using these disruptive technologies. And I think one of the best way, or the first approach, is to have guys understand what is this that we are really talking about when we talk about blockchain, when it comes to talk about cryptocurrencies and smart contracts. And then now we can move into the phase of developing real life applications that can help, that can sort out some of the issues that we have on the continent and even within the developing markets, because this is actually one of the technology that has been held to be kind of a promising light for developing markets by helping these countries and markets to sort out their challenges. So thanks once again for having me, and it's a pleasure.
Thank you very, very much. There are some questions coming in this. We are out of time. I don't think we'll be taking questions.
I have already answered one question. I will answer the second one as well immediately without taking much of.
Okay, if we have time, we can answer it. Let me read it out and see if we can answer it. Somebody is Kingsley Moss is great insight, but looking at the inefficiency in football, he's talking about football VAR technology not being trusted. Can smart contract be trusted with 100%?
Who goes first? Okay. Yeah, let me go first. So one of the area that we can say smart contract, maybe I didn't mention, is actually going to be even within the gambling industry and the betting industry.
Gentlemen, if you excuse me, if you excuse me, I have another meeting which I just started, so I would like to take your leave for the time being. I had a meeting starting at 9:30, so can I?
No problem. No problem. Thank you very much, Ashish. Our Maurice will be concluding, and then we'll draw the curtain. Thank you, your excuse. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Thanks a lot, Maurice. Thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Ashish.
And great future to Coin News Extra. We are looking forward to stay connected. Have a nice day, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day too, Ashish.
So, Maurice, you can continue. Let's summarize.
Okay, so like I was saying, one of the area, like to mention, one of the area that we have a perfect use case for smart contracts is actually the gambling industry, whereby we can have smart contracts being used to kind of validate transactions that are occurring within the industry. Let's say where we have a betting company, because a betting company is actually the central authority, and we can disintermediate this by use of smart contracts. So we can by him asking that, can we trust these smart contracts 100%? I would say it's not possible to trust it 100%. But once you have, because what the only problem that we can have with smart contracts is that once we will need to rely on external sources of data, and that problem, like we've mentioned earlier, is that we can have an introduction of oracles which try to verify that the information that is being entered in the smart contract or within the lines of code is actually correct. And the only way to guarantee that the information that these oracles give to the smart contracts or feed to the smart contract is by having the oracles adopt a more decentralized model or a more decentralized approach. And then this can be solved through, and how do you achieve decentralized model within the oracles? It's by having very many of them that give information that should point to the common truth that should be held within the smart contract. So it's a yes or no situation, because now once you have a central authority that is actually in between, that has not been yet disintermediated, it's going to be a challenge. But if you can have that sorted out through decentralized oracles, then you can have any information that goes into the smart contract being verified as true, and then you can have a fair play of the games. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Thank you. You have really thrown many lights on that. Thank you very much, our audience. So today's episode we just concluded is Coin News Extra Weekly Virtual Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Panel Discussion, episode 21. So our panelists have been Ashish A. He just left. We went for other engagement, and we are rounding up. The next that is still with us is Maurice Getunga. Maurice Getunga, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.